Again, my specialty is in new media areas of study, like a lot of time-based editing with iMovie, Final Cut, things like that, and a little bit of creative programming. But one of the things I found in work is, especially on the block plan, is it's very easy to go insane and to not keep track of projects and stay on task. And one of the things that I love is trying to find new productivity tools. And one of the things I love about Workflowy is it's platform agnostic. All you need is an internet connection, a computer to connect to the internet, and a web browser, and this will work in any web browser. And I think that that to me is like probably like the golden rule of technology, is it can work across any platform. This is my Workflowy, and it's right now I have it set to being very, very simple. And yes, that is my sense of humor right there, calling work McWorky. I used to work at Apple, and so I always called Apple going to McWorky. I created a workflow of Workflowy, which is sort of, it's very, very meta, but it's also something that I think will show you when I go through the process of the outline of how you can use Workflowy. So I already covered this for the most part, but what is Workflowy? It's a way to organize your brain, is the way they put it. It's an online productivity tool. I use it for taking notes and making to-do lists and collaborating. I haven't used a collaboration tool, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but I think it's robust enough to where you could really make a lot of use of it if you're doing projects where you want to get feedback from people or you want to coordinate tasks. Why use it? Like I was saying earlier, it makes me stay a little bit sane at work, and as I was saying before on the block plan, I can easily lose track of my projects. I will start one thing in block 1, block 2 rolls around, and then 3 goes by, and I won't get back to that project until maybe block 4, or even the latest, it sounds terrible, in spring. So I use this as a way to stay on task and organize all of my projects and information. I do use it for brainstorming ideas, and again, taking notes in meetings or making notes for things that come across and I just want to remember. Getting started is very easy. If you signed up for anything online, go to workflowy.com and create an account. I'm not going to go through that process. That's something I think all of you can do or tinker with, and if you get stuck, you can definitely contact me, but I don't think you will. When you start Workflowy, I've always followed the guides, and their guides are really great because I think the beauty of, if you're really good at screencasting and showing how to use a piece of technology online, you keep the screencast to about 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, because even when I create my own screencast, I don't want to watch a video for 5 minutes, and I found that when you click on the Help tab, going through all of them, and you see I've watched all of them because there's a green check mark right next to it. Let me move that up a little bit. But they're really nice and short and sweet, and so it's good for if you need to find how to do something really fast, you can quickly watch it and then get to it. They recommend starting with very simple topics. So as you can see in my own up here, McWorky and personal, I'm following their guidelines with work and personal. And then you get into sublists. So if I expand on each of these as examples, you can have your performance eval goals, which is what I have done. And if I expand on my McWorky, you can see my goals for 2013. And just to show you how complicated it can get, that's just goal 2. And if I expand on goal 3 and goal 4, it can get, you can create a lot of sublists. But I've found, for me, where my professional goals are concerned in doing per performance eval, I take notes on it as I go through the year. Once I've completed it, I get to spring, I can copy and paste everything that I need to put in reference to that particular goal right into my performance eval sheet. Or I can send it on to my supervisor by sharing them a link to this particular list, and I'll show you how to do that later. So you can see I do use it for personal. Cats is at the top of the list because cats are always high priority. Recipes, shopping lists, photography, creative projects, and if you look at my personal list, I have, what I use it for the most is probably creative coding and projects with my partner Nate, and cat videos, and places I want to travel in Colorado. And So that once you create your lists or your subjects, that's when you get into the nitty-gritty of what Workflowy can do, and some of its the features can be really, really fantastic. I'm just going to go straight through the list, and I'll show you examples as I go through each feature. Zooming and navigating. Zooming, I haven't showed this to you. You've seen me collapse and expand each of my lists. Zooming, it allows you to, when you see this bulleted item, you click on it and you zoom into that list. It's really great because if you've noticed, I have a lot of lists and a lot of sublists. This focuses your attention on that particular list. So if you are collaborating with someone on a project and you share that particular list, it keeps your focus. And I was working in Workflowy from the home page with everything expanded, and it just gets so overwhelming. And I mean, if you love to make lists and you love to organize information, it can get complicated really fast. Indenting and outdenting, this is fairly easy too. Just to show you an example, if I'm going to create a new list, I'll call it test and test. Let's see, I'm going to return and click tab. If I want to outdent, you hit return again, and you can continue to outdent as far out as you can possibly go on your Workflowy. So I'm going to delete that. So indent, you choose tab, and then outdent, you hit return. Adding a note is fairly straightforward. When you hover over a bullet item, you get presented with a series of options, and you just choose add note and then start typing. Tagging is probably one of the best features in Workflowy. I put my tags in here. They recommend that you stick with very simple tags, like they have one for now. I put fall and spring because most of the stuff that I'm working on in the fall, it shifts dramatically from what I'm doing in the spring. And it coincides with the semesters, obviously. So if I click fall, anything that is tagged with fall comes up on the page. When you want to exit out and go back to and click on a different tag, you just hit escape. And I'll show you spring and escape and now. And where collaboration is concerned, I put just myself in here because I haven't included other collaborators, which isn't great for the tutorial, but just to show you what it looks like when you click on if someone else were referring, it brings up that person's name and any association with the list that you've created, and you've put that in there. And if I click escape again, I navigate back out. Starring is another, let's say you're a mega list maker and you have like 100 different lists or lots of projects. The way that you can manage between those is use starring pages or lists. So up here, this is my main page. If I want to star this page, it automatically highlights your other starred pages below. Yeah, it looks like you can't really tell on this screen, but the star will be grayed out. And when you want to navigate to a different page, right next to the search bar, there's this little icon. It's another star. If you click on it, all of your starred pages show up below. It's just a really great, so for example, I have professional development, my goals, and personal lists are the ones that I navigate to the most. So I would star those pages. And let's see. Completing, I imagine how many of you are list makers, just real quick? Okay, you love checking off the list, right? That's like the really glorious feeling of creating lists. This is probably the best part of Workflowy too, in addition to the tagging. You can, using the drop-down menu, hover above the bullet item that you want to create a strike through on, and choose complete, and to decomplete it or undo the strike through, simply choose complete again. There are, real quick, there's a command which I think is a lot easier to do, and I already did these as an example, But if you want to strike through using a keystroke, hold the Control key, put the cursor on the list item that you want to complete, and then click Control and Return. And it'll hop to the next line, and let's say you're completing all of those items in the list, Control, Return, Control, Return. Now, this happens to me a lot, but if, again, you are really big list maker and you have completed a lot of tasks and items in your lists, it gets really ugly and overwhelming with how many strike-throughs that you have when you go into Workflowy. So the way to reduce that clutter and for it to seem less overwhelming, on the upper right-hand corner, there's this option that says completed, and right next to it you'll see a colon, and hopefully you can see that where it says visible. And if I toggle that, it'll hide all of my completed strike-through items and tasks. So that way you can continue working on things that you haven't completed. And if I toggle it, if I click it again, they reappear. Collaboration, as I was saying before, I shared my McWorky list right here with my supervisor so that he could stay in the loop on where I was with projects, my goals, and then when he came to meet with me for individual meetings, he understood what I was doing and like, okay, I saw that you were doing this and this, you haven't been doing this, why? Oh, it's because you were doing these things over here. And it was, I'd say it was okay. I don't think he looked at it nearly enough, and probably because there weren't, as I was mentioning before, you can put at a person's name, and for a task, if you're doing project management collaboration, that makes it easier for a person to actually go there and actually do a task. Sharing is, again, you're going to hover over the bullet and have the menu drop down, and you can click Share. And you are presented, oh, this always does this. Once I click it again, it'll stay up there. You're presented with two options. They can view it, so read only, or they can edit with it, and they can so read and write. And then I'm going to click Edit, and then choose Share. And so only this list right now where you see collaboration, you're going to send the person that you want to collaborate with this link, and then click Close. And you'll probably can't tell on this screen, but what happens is this bulleted list, it looks a little bit blue, the highlight over that bullet item. So, and then if you see from the drop-down menu, Shared is in bold and slightly highlighted in blue. At any point you want to stop sharing, you click on Share and choose Stop this list, sharing this list. And now I was saying before, best practices, share big lists, don't share small lists, because one of the issues that you'll end up having is you'll be sharing 20 lists and they'll be really small lists. So it's better to try to organize everything in a big chunking, essentially, all your information, and that way they can navigate through items. And if you don't want the information in there, then you don't put it in the list. Search is fairly straightforward. I'm going to just type in keyword. You can do keyword searches. And sort of like with tagging and doing at tagging, it'll highlight the word you're searching for in yellow. And when you're done, you can choose Escape. And it'll take you back to the page that you were just on. Moving, so let's say you have items in a list or a list itself that you want to move into another list or somewhere on the page. If you hover over what you want to move, over on, I'm going to move this up a little bit so you guys can actually see it. You're going to hover, over this case I'm going to hover over Move, and then you see on the right hand side that up, down, side to side arrow. You're going to choose that, or put your cursor on it, and then you can move it above. And if you want to undo it, choose Undo, or Command Z. Another up here, there's an option, if I hover above it, it says it'll give you the keystrokes. That's also undo, and then you can redo as well. Deleting, again, pretty simple. Most of what you're going to do with some of these options are going to be in the bullet menu. So if you hover over the bullet, you can choose Delete. Rather than delete this list right here, I'll create a test list. And if I hover over this, choose, deleted it. And then the shortcut, which I prefer and it's really easy to use, is Control plus Shift and click backspace, and it deletes it. Duplicate. This is good if you're collaborating on a project and you have a list that you know you're going to have to go through that series of steps again. It's think of it like a template that you would use for a web page. You don't want to have to continuously keep recreating the list, so you can make a duplicate of it. And so I have my McWorky for 2013-2014 academic year. Let's say I'm going to replicate some of the contents within it. I hover over the bullet and then choose duplicate. It will duplicate it and then put copy in parentheses, and then you can go in, change some things around if you want. Expand and collapse. You've been watching me do this through the entire tutorial. If there is sub-contents within a list, it'll be highlighted. If not, it'll have just a bullet point. And if there is sub-contents, you'll have a plus sign or a minus sign to be able to expand or collapse it. What's really, I want to show you, this is again one of the other really cool features. Let's say, I'm going to try and find what it has. This is probably the best way to do it. So if I go into features, I'm going to zoom into this particular page. Let's say I want to expand everything at once. If you double click on the title, it'll automatically open it. And then if you double click again, it'll close it. Import and export. Oh, I never did the tag move. Okay. Sorry. With import and export, the funny part about this is that this does not work well with Microsoft Word. And there's probably something in that I think is really important and beautiful, but it does work well with Google Docs. So if you copy and paste from Google Docs into your Workflowy, that should transfer over just fine. But other types of applications, it doesn't seem to transfer as well. So copy and paste that's what they recommend with in terms of importing, like from a file, that's not going to work. Copy and paste is the best way to go with Workflowy. Export, use, well, the export button in the menu. So if I wanted to export this list, I choose export, and this will probably go away. Yep. It's been doing that consistently. So choose, let's see, export. And you're presented with three options: formatted, plain text, and OPML. Ignore OPML unless you're a coder and you understand that that's going to be an XML data list. If that's something that you use, then yay, but I would think for the layman, average person, you're probably going to stick with formatted or plain text. And I export it as typically plain text. If you want to export everything in Workflowy, in the upper right-hand corner, there's this little triangle. You guys probably can't see it. And there's an option to export all. And again, you're presented with the same options. Real quick, I'm going to backtrack and go to move because I didn't show this feature. I completely went over it. This is just an example of, like, let's say you want to combine tags into one list. If I choose this tag, which I called move, just for the sake of the tutorial, I can hover over it, move, and then drag. Let's see, drag up to here. And then when let's go escape, you'll see that I had that under export, it's no longer there, and now it's under move. So it's a way to quickly chunk move information within lists. Sorry, that's completely off track, but and the last item, settings. Under the little triangle again, you're going to have under the drop down menu, you're going to choose settings. And you can change your font from sans serif to serif, so serif being your type with little feet, and sans serif being without feet, so Helvetica is a sans serif font. You can tick this box that says help me learn the keyboard shortcuts, and this little window over here appears to help you learn those keyboard shortcuts until you no longer need that anymore. And I use this feature right here, send email summaries of changes to my account. I like to keep track of what I've changed, what I haven't changed, and if I don't get that email every day, I haven't been in Workflowy, and that's sort of a reminder that I should probably check in and see where I am on things. So that's the gist of it. I think I probably showed you maybe a little bit more than what I needed to, but did I go too fast, or does anyone have any questions? Do you like it at least? Yes? No? Would you? Okay.
So how do you prioritize this?
Well, that's just sort of top to bottom, and you can move them. At least for me, that's what I do. And my starred lists are how I prioritize what I work on. You can create your own. You can use tags in that case, like high priority, and they suggested using now. So anything with the tag now, if you click on that right away, and nothing has a strike through marked through it, then you need to still do it.
Yeah.
Oh, so on here, this is one that you already had set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you show us what a blank one looks like? Because I went on here on my iPad,
Mm-hmm.
and all it's showing is a little plus sign, and then the completed and visible, and that's it. And I'm looking at it going, I don't know what to do.
Well, here's the best thing what I could do right now, and I can always restore this, is it'll look just like if I delete this Workflowy list altogether. Hold on, it's just going to be a cursor with the blinking sign, because I can't actually get to the point where it'll be a blank screen. So when you sign up for an account, if I hit return, that's what it'll look like. So if I cut off,
yeah,
that's what it looks like.
Okay, so I have a plus sign. So what do I do?
Uh,
I mean, if any of us need to write a list right now.
No, yeah, this is perfect. Do you want me to go over there and help? Show her?
No. See what I would do, what I did is I watched the video.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the little help video and it said, first thing you need to do, break up your life. First of all, work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If there's a plus sign next to it, that means that you've created a sublist. So if I just do test right here, and I click return and then tab is creating an indent for creating that list for this particular topic, which I've called test. And then I'm going to call just 1, 2, 3, and then under 3 I'm going to do a sub list of 3, A, B, C. And I'm going to, if you notice when I hover over this item, I get that minus. I'm going to close that. That allows me to expand that particular list. So if you see a plus or a minus sign, chances are you've created a list underneath the topic. Okay. So right now, if I see that, can you see the minus sign right there? Mm-hmm. That means it's expanded. The list is expanded, and I can see it. If I click on it and you see the plus sign, so try on your iPad right now, if you could click on the plus sign, see if it expands and if you have bulleted items underneath it.
It has a bullet, yeah, it shows a bullet.
And it might just be you need to tap on that area, maybe just put test or type in a word just to see if you can continue creating bulleted items on that particular list.
Okay. And then you just label it where you want it, and then you can save it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this auto saves. If you look in the upper right hand corner, let me reduce this, and I'm going to create another list. Right now, up at the top, it says Save Now. It automatically saves even if I don't click Save. Okay. It'll auto do it. And if you're really worried about there's going to be a power outage or something like that, and then you can click Save Now, but give it 5 seconds at the longest, and it'll auto save. Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to put dates that things are due, and does it give reminders, that type of thing?
That's again, I would use tags probably. Okay. So if there's a due date on something, and let's say you share it and you put their @ right next to it, so you have a tag for the date and then the @ for that particular person when it's due, that'll indicate to them, hey, this is your task for this particular project, and then you have the tag date that says when it's supposed to be due. There's no reminders, though. You have to check in with it. Mm-hmm. Will anyone else use it, just out of curiosity? Maybe, maybe not. Weston, yay. I don't know, I really love it, and I'm someone who, I think also when they say it's a way to organize your brain, I think that's pretty true, because the way that my mind works, I tend to make things very, very complex. And sometimes just really, it's a way to break things down and create outlines. And then I find sometimes I can create, or ideas will pop into my head, and I've simplified things a great deal, and have been my productivity at work has gone through the roof. It really, really has. But I think I just needed something to to rein me in, and my brain I tend to make things just really complicated.
I was just talking with someone from the Writing Center, and we talked about sloppy thinking makes sloppy writing, so I can see too it gets sloppy list making, maybe a little less organized in this.
I mean, and the funny thing is my lists, they started out very, very simple, and then it got really complicated really fast. But right here I have my software and my tech notes and guide outlines. This has helped me really focus on what's essential in screencasts, or that's why I created a Workflowy list, because I thought, what a perfect way to show Workflowy is to create the bulleted items and lists of its features, and then go through each feature and show you what you can and cannot do within that very list. So, yeah. I like the name too, Workflowy. I think it's cute.
That's why I came.
Okay, nice.
What about security?
Well, there's no, I guess you're probably asking about encryption maybe and things like that. I haven't come across any issues or any sort of like safety issues with it. I don't know if I can speak to the security of it too well. It wasn't an issue for me. But I imagine if you ever come into anything that's sensitive information, I wouldn't put it up there. There is a pro account, and it's cut off on here. There's like a little tab within your account, and they allow for password protection on lists, so when you share with them, but they don't allow it in this version, which is free. So yeah, I mean, a rule of thumb, sort of like the Facebook rule, if you're concerned about what people are going to think or what they're going to do with that information, don't put it up there.
If I may, right now there's two kinds of security that are built in. One, you've got your user account, which only you have. You're not going to share that with anyone. If you want to share a list with somebody, you can share the link to that specific part of the list. And obviously, you're not going to be putting social security numbers in here or documents in here. So why would somebody want to steal your to-do list? But the other part of security that is in here is if you look up at the top where it says you've got the lock icon in the URL and
I didn't even notice
the
that.
address, it says HTTPS, and the S is for security, and that way you know that the communication between your web browser and the server is going through a more secure channel.
Yeah, well put. I didn't even think to mention the HTTPS. Yeah.
Well, I don't have a question, but my last name is Lister, so I should reserve that.
That's a really good point. I like that.
So if I have a list that I've completed all of the tasks that are on the list, and I want to be able to preserve my set of lists so that I can copy it over for the following year, is there any way that I can, thank you, is there any way that I can cross the things off the list without having to go in and manually cross off the entire list once it's complete? Something that will indicate that the list is complete. Having to do it manually?
Without having to do each item within that list?
Yes. Yeah.
So yes. So what I would do is I would go up, let's say my year is done. I've done everything I wanted to do on this list. And I mean, just a visual cue. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But everything underneath it doesn't have strike through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or as I'm going through and striking things off of it, and then everything on that list is complete, is there a way that it's going to flag that the whole list is being complete?
Well, I think in the sense of a visual cue. So remember when I have completed visible and then completed hidden? That's probably, I think, the closest to answering your question, but it doesn't really outright answering. It's not a... It organizes information, but it's not necessarily going to trigger reminders or send you a cue that you completed this list, but you haven't completed this. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that really...
But even if I'm hiding it, it's still available that I can copy it over.
Yeah. So you wanna mark this as maybe duplicate the list, show the previous list as being completed, and then continue maybe adding to that list that you've already done something.
Right. I might copy and then add to it.
Yeah. I mean, and that would be where, like, let's say I'm going to keep some of my goals will probably change, but there will probably, I'd like to maybe duplicate some of this information here. Final Cut Pro will update, iMovie will update some of these things. They'll have feature changes, and I might want to add to it. So I'll highlight on the bulleted, the main bullet, and then choose duplicate, and it'll duplicate it right below it.
So we're at a little over a half hour. Let's give Emily a hand for this good presentation.
Yeah. I hope you guys use it. It's so much fun. Just because I love organizing stuff.
Good, come to my office.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you for coming.
Can you insert like pictures or?
I haven't. No.
Things like that?
I mean, if you can copy it from a web, you should be able to put it in.
Okay.
But if it doesn't allow you to sort of highlight and copy, then
Okay.
like I put links into certain things if I don't want to just like copy and paste the image into it. Like there's like a list of image references that you may want to refer to at different point. Honestly, image bookmarking tools would probably be better for something like that. Like I have Supply, it's spelled SVPPLY.com. I use that for shopping lists and things like that. So I get a visual of what it is I want to buy, how much it costs, and then I can create a list. So where shopping lists are concerned, I'll refer to a link in Workflowy and then go out to it. It gets very layered. Yeah. Great. Oh, good. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm way too excited about this.
No, I'm going to figure it out.
Oh, great.
I like the collaboration piece too.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So,
I don't have as much experience to speak to except for just sharing it with Chad.
right.
But I was, and Weston was hoping that I might have a little bit more to be able to show you guys that this is what happens when you collaborate.
No. This was great.
Oh, good.
If there had been more, that would have been
All
cool.
right,
but-
thanks.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Nick, how are you doing?